Today, we speak to Channel 7 expert and former gun player Kate McCarthy about who she thinks will win each game in week 1 of finals and who will come out on top overall. This AFLW episode is brought to you by Woodside Energy, a proud major partner of the Fremantle Dockers, supporting local footy from grassroots to greatness. Well, welcome to the West Sports Show, and it's AFLW finals time. And I'm excited because I'm joined by Channel 7 expert Kate McCarthy. How are you, Kate?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Quarters. Thanks for having me. It's an exciting time of year getting into the AFLW finals.
And obviously with West Coast playing finals for the first time. We'll get into some games in a moment. I just want to ask you a couple of topics coming out the last couple of days. The grand final, should it be at Marvel Stadium?
Well, I think the argument for having it at Marvel is that the last 2 grand finals, which have been at IKON Park between North Melbourne and Brisbane both times, it's sold out in a matter of hours. So, and they've had capacity attend the game as well. So I think it has outgrown IKON Park a little bit. Clearly when there's 12,000 fans and more that want to go, I think that's particularly when you're trying to grow the game, and we do talk about regularly how we're trying to grow the game of AFLW, and it's still in its infancy, only in its 10th season, obviously. But if you're locking people out from attending the biggest game of the year, it probably means that you needed a bigger venue. And yes, I would be very surprised if Marvel was sold out, and we're not trying to say that we'd sell out Marvel for an AFLW final. But in my opinion, having anywhere between 20, 30,000 people at Marvel is better than having 12,000 people at IKON with however many missing out. So that's my perspective on it. I know that planning and stuff is getting in the way of that because of obviously the tendency of Marvel. They like to get as much as they can out of it post men's footy season, which I understand, but probably in a little bit of a different space now where you'd think they'd maybe make it available till the end of November to allow for the AFLW final to be played there if it is being hosted in Melbourne. A
bit of news today, not surprising given their exit last weekend, but Scott Gowans has been sacked as Sydney coach. Also, I think losing 6 of their last 8 didn't help.
It was surprising, I think, for the fact that he's been contracted through to 2027. So for that matter, I think it's been released that he's sort of decided to step away, but yeah, I think a lot of reading between the lines there might be going on. But, I mean, he's done a great job for that football club, getting them into finals in their second season, and then obviously finished 15th last year, and then just missed out with a pretty poor performance on the weekend, it must be said. Missed out on another finals campaign. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what plays out there. And there wasn't any coaches coming into the end of this year and the start of next year that were actually out of contract. So I didn't think we'd see much movement, but they've obviously sort of made the decision. Scott Gowans has made the decision that he doesn't think he can get what he thought he could out of the players, and time for a new voice. So I think Tanya Hetherington will be someone that is really on their radar there. She's an assistant coach at Sydney at the moment, obviously played football in the AFLW herself, and she's very highly regarded within that Swans program. So that might be one that is in the pipeline as well.
I don't reckon too many people will be watching a replay of that game. I think the weather was just about the best player on the ground. I mean, it played into Essendon's hands. It was fascinating watching on from WA. Obviously, West Coast had some skin in that game, and then rolling into Sunday with the Freo Adelaide game, and only a draw could have thwarted their first finals campaign. But it looks sort of like it might happen late. So it was a funny old weekend, and good on West Coast for putting themselves into a position. I guess lost their last 2, but putting themselves into a position to win it. Let's just open with West Coast for this weekend. It's not the first game of the weekend, but Saturday, IKON Park at 12:05 p.m. Carlton, who finished 5th, playing West Coast 8th. Interestingly, yesterday at training, West Coast were piping crowd noise through the loudspeakers while the girls were training. They've made a big effort this year to downplay the whole hype. They've embraced it to an extent, but it's all about just the governance and just getting things right, not getting too up. Yeah, not getting too up, not getting too down. But I think this week they have embraced it a little bit, and good on them. But what do you make of the crowd noise and sort of? Daisy's obviously someone who's got so much experience, has played in a premiership, played in plenty of finals, and the girls can obviously draw a lot from her. But what do you make of all of that?
Yeah, I think it's obviously a huge opportunity, West Coast into their first finals campaign in their club's history, which is something to really be celebrated to start with, and to think of the turnaround that's been made in just the 2 seasons under Daisy Pearce is quite remarkable, considering their win-loss ratio up until that point as a club. But yeah, I think sort of making sure that there is a real focus that this is it, this is do or die. But they've essentially had that the last couple of weeks, which I think will hold them in really good stead. So they lost to the Swans in round 11, obviously, which then looked like it was going to be really hard for them to make finals. And then losing to the Blues, most people would have said that meant that their campaign was over. And if you saw them at the end of that game and watched the reactions, they cheered off Dana Hooker thinking it was her last game because they really didn't think there was much chance of Essendon getting the upset. But to their credit, it all panned out for them, and a little bit of luck's involved at times. But I think they've had sort of a taste of the last 2 weeks essentially feeling like finals. And when you are a young group and you play your first final, it is pretty overwhelming. It's something that you don't experience before. But I feel like they've essentially built up for the last 2 weeks to almost be like this is a final, especially last week. Really, they would have played that thinking if we win, we're in. If not, we're pretty shaky at making it. So I think having that experience the last 2 weeks will almost be like they've played 2 finals up until this point. And I think the other thing is this is a really unique situation in the AFLW where you're actually playing an opponent 2 weeks in a row.
Two games.
Yeah, which it would be unique in men's football, but it's even more unique in women's football because you don't sometimes play the same team 2 seasons in a row because of the way the fixture works. So I think it's a fascinating tactical battle now with what we see between the 2 coaches and what did they learn, what can they change in a week. Obviously, Jess Wrench coming back in for the Eagles, I think that makes a massive difference to them, and I think she probably goes at the first centre bounce and puts her arm across Mim Hill and doesn't leave her side for the rest of the game. And I think also Kelly Gibson, I think she was only played a quarter.
Yeah, she was crook. Had to leave early out of the game last week, yeah.
And so with a player down in this, I guess, conditions that were there on Saturday made it pretty tough. Friday night, made it pretty tough too. So that's another thing that swings things back into the Eagles' favour as well. So it'll be fascinating. Days obviously spoke yesterday about the fact that they want to use the ball better going inside forward.
Harriet Corden had like 10 intercepts in the 10 intercepts I think in the first half alone last week. Yeah. So they've got to get the ball around her.
Absolutely, or send a defensive forward to her, see what they can disrupt. So I think there's definitely moves to be made, which, it was a 20-point deficit, but it was even at 3/4 time. So when you make up those moves and try and get a little edge over the opponent in the coach's box, I think Days has the potential to do that in a week for sure.
Ella Roberts, she going to win the medal this year?
Well, I mean, she should.
Yeah,
she should be up there. If she's not up in the top 3 or 4 by the end of the season, I think the game that she missed will cost her because of how short the season is. Missing out on votes in one game does make a huge difference. And, I mean, Ash Riddell's been pretty formidable this season, and Jazz Garner missed 3 games, so that'll be 3 where she doesn't take votes off Ash Riddell. But, I mean, let's be honest, if you're turning the game on to watch one of 3 players, Ella Roberts is one of them. You want to watch her play her football.
Who goes to her, do you think?
I don't know if they send anyone to her. I think it'll be interesting. They don't have renowned tag. Maddie Gearan might spend a little bit of time with her, but she's just so good overhead. It's really hard to find a matchup in the midfield for her that can go overhead, or that can a player that can stop her overhead can't go with her on the ground. So she's such a hybrid player. She's so hard to stop. You probably got to put some time into making sure the ball going to her, or if she's getting it, she's not getting huge metres gained on the outside. Get her disposals happening on the inside of the contest.
Charlotte Rigg looks like she's about to just smash a game open.
She does. Her and Lauren Wackfer have been really good the last few weeks. Lauren Wackfer's gone, I think, at a goal a game for the last 6 or 7 games, so she's flown under the radar a little bit. But that's the exciting thing about the Eagles. So many young, raw players, and Charlotte Riggs is one of them, and starting to really see her start to blossom. But you feel like she's still got another 2 or 3 levels to go to with her football. So she is someone that's a very exciting watch in that forward half for the Eagles.
You mentioned it before as a really good point, because Bella Lewis yesterday did say it felt like they've been playing finals for a couple of weeks. The other point that was raised yesterday was, as you mentioned, Dana Hooker was chaired off last week, but it was sort of like get it out of the way and now she can just focus on the footy. It doesn't matter if it's her last game. So I think, and Daisy addressed that and said Dana just can't. It's like a bonus. She can't wait to get out there and have a crack.
Yeah, and it's, I think, having the week where you announce your retirement, your players around there is a fair bit that goes on with it. And then you get out there and you think, right, this could be my last game. And then the thing that actually happened at the Siren is everyone thought it was Dana Hooker's last game because of the likelihood of them playing finals. So, yeah, I think she's had that moment. She's been able to sort of do that, and now it's just all settles and let's play footy and see if we can get through to another week, because everything's a bonus from here on in.
Much as I'd like to pick West Coast, I think Carlton get the job done here. Who do you think will win and why?
I think we're expecting a fair bit of rain on Saturday, which I think makes it or turns things back into West Coast favour a little bit. Carlton like to play very bold attacking football, so in trickier conditions, can the Eagles do what the Blues did to them and start to turn the ball over and score from turnover? I think from what we've seen this season, I think Carlton have been a little bit more, recently anyway, a little bit more consistent with Tyra Bohanna back and Mim Hill back as well. I think they look like a far better side. So I think the Blues just get it done, but I wouldn't be at all surprised if the Eagles pull one out of the hat and get the victory over them. Friday
night, North Melbourne first, 23 games in a row, absolutely remarkable effort. The Hawthorn fourth. It was this is one of the two games that's being replayed the following week. 49-point result. Let's start with the snub. So no Hawthorn Guard of Honour for Jasmine Garner in her 100th game. A lot of talk about it during the week. Hawthorn said it was a miscommunication and have since reached out to her. But you didn't sit comfortably with you, Kate.
Yeah, on the Sunday night, I think given the other players we've had now, 800 gamers in AFLW, and the 7 others have all had a dual Guard of Honour, because it is a huge achievement in the AFLW. For those listening that don't think 100 games is a big deal, well, we've literally only ever had 8 players get there to start with. It's 10 seasons in, and the first couple of seasons there was a maximum of 7 games you could play if you played in the grand final. So that is a long way to 100 games. It's nothing like what it is as a milestone in men's football. No. So let's get that out there to start with. And we're not saying that in men's football you need 100 games with a dual Guard of Honour to be chaired off. That's not the comparison here. But yeah, I think like Hawthorn have come out. Dan Webster, we had him on Talking W on Tuesday, and he said that they got it wrong. They've apologised, and I think that's that. Move on. But I think it's still, there was a few players at North that weren't super happy with it, and I think there'll be a bit of spice on Friday night with regard to that, because Jazz Garner is probably, she'd be embarrassed with what's been said about it, but I think a few of her teammates would be advocating for her and be a little bit dirty on the fact that did happen and it played out that way.
Jazz Garner will obviously be a key to this result, as will Talia Randall. 4 goals last week, absolutely ran rampant. Does Hawthorn need to change it up a bit because they can't let that happen again? Yeah,
well, they didn't pick their favoured ruck, Jess Vukic, who was out the week before with concussion, but she was available. So she was named as an emergency. And they had Mac Erdley, who has been one of their best defenders, has been thrown everywhere in the season, but she had to play in the ruck. So then who do you put behind the ball? Who's the matchup for Randall? And then the thing that adds another equation to it, or another element to the equation, is Kate Shearer will be coming back as well, who's another key tall forward for North Melbourne. So North were undersized. Talia Randall still kicks 4 goals. Emma King looks dangerous. Kim Rennie looks dangerous in the ruck. And then you add in another tall as well. So I think they have to select a taller team to allow Mac Erdley to play in the back line this week. But Talia Randall looked formidable. She was clunking everything and then kicking set shots from 35, 40 out, just going back and drilling it. So you feel like if she can get a hold of them again, it's going to be really tough for them to stop the Kangaroos.
Anything's possible, of course, but it just feels to me like everyone's lining up for second in this competition this year.
Yeah, look, I'm with you, Quarters. Anything is possible except for probably North Melbourne being beaten, especially on Friday night.
Even though it's against my team, I'm picking the Roos, and I think it again will be pretty comfortable, and they'll go all the way.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Roos will get the job done. Hawthorn played 3 good quarters last week, but they're just such a hard team to go with for 4 quarters, and they make you pay if you make a mistake, which we saw last Friday night as well.
On to Sunday, 10 a.m. or 10:05 a.m. IKON Park. Melbourne second v Brisbane third. Melbourne coming off a 14-point win over Geelong. Firstly, how is the status of their gun forward and captain Kate Hoare, who had to go through an HIA protocol? She's stuck on 99 goals, is that right?
Yes, she is. Yep, she kicked one in that game. She's been going in ones for the last couple of weeks to get there. She passed her HIA post-match, so she is all good to go, which is a big sigh of relief for Demons fans for sure.
So do they get this job done because it's at home? I mean, Zanka, again, 4 goals last week in that win over the Cats. Brisbane, 6-16, so clearly that's the area they need to address if they're going to have any chance in this game. Collingwood focused on the uncontested possession, taking it away from Brisbane, so Melbourne will be taking note of that. But to me, it feels like a Melbourne win at home.
Yeah, I think they played each other 2 weeks ago, which is another unique situation. So we've had 3 matchups, all of which have either occurred the week before or a fortnight ago. And it was a tight tussle. It was frantic in the first quarter. The big difference for me was the depth of the Brisbane side as opposed to the depth of the Ds. And to Melbourne's credit, their depth has been tested because of some of their injuries to key players. And Brisbane really got on top in the second half through the midfield, both inside and out. And Sophie Conway had a huge game, 27 disposals and 2 goals in that game. So you think Eliza McNamara might play a little bit of a different role on Sophie Conway to try and negate her a little bit. I think Brisbane have the depth to get it done on Sunday. But I think it's one of those games. Yes, Brisbane got the wood over them 2 weeks ago, but Craig Starcevich, as he said in his presser today, they've never actually beaten Melbourne in finals. So they've played them, they have a great history with them, but haven't actually got the job done in finals over Melbourne. So that's another little box they need to tick as well. So this is going to be, for me, the match of the round, one of the closest games that we'll see with, obviously everything's on the line in all finals games, but get to go straight through to a prelim and qualify for a home prelim. So big game for both teams, but I think Brisbane just get the job done.
Sophie Conway good again last week in that 20-point win over Collingwood. Dakota Davidson, fair to say, she'd be doing a little bit of extra goal-kicking practice this week. That's a scoreline of 6-16. So 22 scoring shots suggests that it was a pretty good game for them, bar they in front of goals.
Yeah, it was. I think some of it can be put down to very windy conditions, but not all of it. Definitely not all of it. Star said in his presser today again that they play a really frantic brand of footy and they want to play high pressure. They go quickly, and then to turn that around in their front half is sometimes a bit difficult. So they have to show a bit more composure with ball in hand in the front half to try and, straighten that up a bit. 6 goals, 16. You feel like if they won't, first of all, they won't get 20 scoring shots against Melbourne, you wouldn't think. And if they do, they have to be a lot cleaner than that to be able to get the win.
So you're going Lions, I'm going the Demons. Sunday, the last game of the first week of finals, Adelaide 6 v St Kilda 7th at 12:05 p.m. This one at Norwood Oval, which I think holds the key to this game. We saw Fremantle. We've seen just teams struggle there. We see AFL teams struggle there. It's just a very narrow ground, really hard to play on. With Ebony Marinoff in really good form. Threw 1,000 career tackles last week too. What an amazing effort by her. Good players playing well. Were challenged at times by Freo. But can you make a case for St Kilda?
I think exactly what you said, where this game is being played just tips it into Adelaide's favour astronomically, because they played each other in round 1 and the Saints just ran Adelaide riot. They ran them off their feet. They opened up the ground. They made it really hard for Adelaide to defend the whole ground. But then you look at the dimensions of Norwood and it's basically a soccer field. So they can make it contested, harder to open it up. Also the Saints, who, credit to them, they're through to their first finals campaign ever in AFLW history too, which is huge. But they've gotten through the season with some really key injuries to really key players, and I think we saw probably last week those injuries catch up with them a little bit. A big loss to the Bulldogs, which cost them a home final, and I think the Crows are just a bit too experienced, will play a contested brand of footy, and I think they get the job done. 45-point
loss to the Western Bulldogs last week, and their defence has been pretty good this year. Minus Paige Trudgeon last week. She's coming back?
Yes, she should be back. She was a laid out day of game. I think that was more to get her right for this week.
So we're both going for the Crows in this game by the sounds of it.
Yeah, I'm on the Crows.
Kate, it's been fantastic. Thanks for sharing your time with us, and let's hope it's a cracking weekend of finals footy in the AFLW.
No worries, Quarters. Thanks for having me.